just gonna start off by doing something a little bit different and fun, because even though today is actually Halloween, by the time you're hearing this, it's definitely not going to be Halloween anymore. We're going to be closer to Christmas. But we just wanted to hop in because today, when you're hearing this, is actually a very special day for one of our co-hosts.
Yes, we would just like to interject your regularly scheduled programming to say happy birthday, Moira!
Yes, girl, it's your birthday, and we just wanted to say that we love you and thank you for doing all of this with us.
Yeah, you're such an important part of the show and such an important part of our friend group, and we love you very much.
All right, now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Happy birthday! So, welcome. This is the Series of Opinions podcast, episode number 9, called And Then Things Got Crazy, which I'll talk more about what that actually is in a second. We are 3 women talking about the best and worst of media and our opinions concerning them. I'm Faith.
I'm Moira.
I'm KJ.
Okay, so let's jump right into our recommendation corner. Does anybody have any recommendations, what they've been loving recently?
I always have recommendations.
Of course, always.
I usually try to recommend things that are like low key, or podcasts that are just getting going, or shows that I don't think a lot of people watch. But that's not the approach I'm taking this week at all.
Okay.
So I recently just started watching a series of shows that's been on for a while. So I started watching all the Chicago shows. So I started with Chicago Fire, and now I'm watching Chicago Fire and Chicago PD. And by the time this episode comes out, I'm sure I will be well into Chicago Med as well.
Yeah, which is the one that I
really
am caught up on, is Chicago Med. That's the one that I am most familiar with.
I think Grey's Anatomy's gone a really similar direction since Station 19 has started, but I just really like this whole dynamic. I think it's really interesting because I just I don't know where I was going with this.
That's okay.
It's not an episode about Chicago.
It's a good show, and it's a good series of shows. The characters are all intertwining, and it's very good.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been listening to the Hamilton soundtrack nonstop, which is I'm so behind on that boat as well.
Oh, girl!
But I'm on it now. Yeah, I'm on the boat now, and even though I was late to the party, it's so incredible and amazing. So there's that.
Yeah, that episode will be coming at some point in 2021.
Yes, definitely. We'll definitely record a Hamilton-related episode or multiple.
Probably, yeah.
Definitely.
Moira?
All I've done is watch Grey's Anatomy and Station 19 for the past week straight.
Yeah,
so
you've been getting really caught up.
Yeah, I plan to be done by the end of the week probably, because I'm halfway through season 16 already.
On that note, I would like to say off the top, I'm sure you were going to say this when you got back into the spiel of this week's episode, but this is going to be a spoiler-heavy episode. More so than usual.
Yes, that is exactly what I was just about to say. Yeah, if you are worried about, because we'll mention the show beforehand, and if you're worried about it being spoiled, then probably just fast forward 10, 15, 20 minutes to the next show. Because
we're going to try and keep this one to a reasonable length, folks.
Hopefully. But you know already if we kept to that or not. You already know.
You'll see when you open this episode how long it was. If it beat our musical episodes or our Heartland episode.
Oh boy. Then we are really sorry.
Yeah.
And then I also really wanted to quickly mention I've been listening to Kelsey Ballerini, her album that came out not that long ago. She had a really good song with Halsey, and so I have been listening to her. And then Sasha Sloan I love a lot, who just came out with a new album last week when we were recording this, called Only Child. So those are 2 singers I've been listening to as well.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
I don't know Sasha Sloan, but I do really like Kelsey Ballerini.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you should definitely check out Sasha Sloan. She's one of my favorites. She has some great ones.
Making a note of that for sure.
Yeah.
So today we are going to talk about the craziest moments in the media where we were taken aback with the crazy moments in the plot, in the story, in the costume, whatever. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a not so good way. These are the moments that made us sit back and wonder what we were doing with our life at that moment watching that show. So to start off, we're going to be talking about Grey's Anatomy. So as KJ said, if you don't want spoilers, beware. Skip a little bit forward. So I think what I have here, we're going to talk about the plane crash first.
Yeah, so the plane crash is, I think, really interesting, just because I think it's a point where a lot of people, like, stop watching.
Yes.
Like, people watch the first 8 seasons, and then they stop at the plane crash, and, like, understandable, but there's been, like, 8 additional seasons since then, and I think that those 8 additional seasons you're missing out.
Oh, definitely.
Sure.
Like,
but it's definitely a different era.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, I feel like it was such a huge event, obviously, on all the characters and everything. It just totally shifted the show, but, like, not in a bad way. I feel like it was, like you said, like, a different era, but still, I mean, it wasn't a bad, crazy moment. It was just shocking, you know?
Yeah, like, Grace gets a lot of flack for having so much, like, character death and character turnover, but I think that's why it stayed on for so long. Like, I think if we still had the OG5, like, magic, like, people would still be watching.
Yeah, I think there's only so far that you can go with characters until they're just, like, I don't know, I think you don't want your fans to get too comfortable with someone being there.
Yeah, for sure.
And too, like, complacent, I guess. And take characters for granted, too, right? You want to, like, switch it up.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Even though, like, Mark and Lexi were just, like, the two...
It was a real tragedy to lose them.
Yeah.
Those were my 2 favorite characters at that time, and also my favorite couple ever from Grey's Anatomy.
Me too.
So that was really... I remember having to take a week and, like, mourn them because it was so
It was
awful.
hard.
It was really hard.
It was hard, and, like, if you watched the spin-off of Private Practice, which I didn't watch while I was watching Grey's Anatomy the first time, so, like, a major character death happened at the same time as Mark's death in Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
Like, those would have happened the same week, so if you were watching both of them,
gosh.
and, like, I can't imagine. Like, I think
can't
that's
imagine.
too much.
No, thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's just absolutely traumatizing.
And I can understand why people thought that the plane crash was a lot. There was a lot that happened in the moments of the plane crash, like losing Lexi and then losing Mark right after, and then having, like, Calzone's relationship implode on itself, and then Meredith and Derek had a baby, and there was other plot happening. But, like, it was a lot of plot all at once, and, like, I can see why people might have been turned off or thought that this is just too far.
Very fair, honestly.
I think the Greys walk that line sometimes of doing things like big traumatic, like serious events, like just to have them. Some shows, I think it can feel like they happen just for something to happen. Whereas I feel like Grey's does, I like how Grey's does it. Like, there's been so many traumatic things happen to these characters that's just unrealistic, but it doesn't feel unrealistic in the moment kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think part of that too is that Grey's is really good at turning the crazy things that happen on Grey's Anatomy into, like, character development.
Yeah.
Like, all of the crazy stuff that happened to, like, with Izzy was maybe a little bit over the top, but also, like, really contributed to Alex's character development overall.
Yeah, and they don't just, like, it's not just, like, an episode where, you know, a ferry boat crashes or something, and then they never talk about it again. Like, it's, like, a lasting thing, and you can tell that the plane crash and all that stuff, like, has lasting impact. I mean, even Meredith mentions it in, like,
recent seasons,
recent seasons when she's on a plane. And mentions Lexi too, which is really important because, like, that's her sister that she lost.
I think that's one of the best things that they do is they continue to incorporate it, so it just isn't a standalone thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You actually remember it because it's a lot of content.
I don't remember. I think it might have been season 14. I was rewatching an episode, like, not that long ago, and, like, Meredith and Alex were still making jokes about Meredith and George sleeping together, and that happened in, like, season 2.
Yeah, literally, like, 15 years earlier, and they're still talking about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which, yeah, makes them feel like real people then. And which at the end of the day, like, that's kind of all you want as a fan, is to not be pulled out of the show, like, to feel like they're actual real people.
Yeah, for sure.
So next on our crazy moments list for Grey's is Derek and Derek's death.
Yeah. This was rough for a lot of fans.
Yeah.
It was.
I didn't even watch the show when this aired, and I knew everything that happened.
Same. I remember, like, at night, you know, how, like, before, like, Big Brother and all that those kinds of shows that I love, E.T. Canada is always on, and I remember them talking about the death of McDreamy. I didn't even know who that was, but I knew that everyone was shook about it.
When I started watching the show, I thought that Derek died in the shooting. Like, that's honest to God where I thought he died. Because that was the only scene I'd seen. And then, like, as I'm getting closer, I'm like, he doesn't die for another, like, 4 seasons, so what is happening? And then, like, the night that I watched it, I knew what episode it was, and I kept waiting for it to happen. And I was so upset that they did that to me, and they made me think it was fine, and it wasn't fine.
Yeah.
And they make you go through it a couple times, too. I think that's what really got me. It was like, okay, this is what's happening. They kind of, like, prepared us for Derek to go. Like, Meredith and Derek having a rough season in their relationship as well. They passed things up, like, right before he died. But, like, it's still, like, we were getting used to not seeing Derek so much. But, like, we have, like, he, like, gets an accident right at the end of an episode. And then, like, this whole episode, like, I think having him narrate his own death is really effective. I think that that's really an interesting choice that they made.
Yeah.
And then in the next episode, we have to relive his death like a third time, basically.
Not fair.
And, like, yeah, like, at that point, you're just like, okay. Yeah, like, we see that scene a lot.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't that shocking for me, because as soon as I can't handle, like, the idea that I know that Derek will die, but I don't know when, so immediately I Googled, like, what season, so I knew I had a while when I first started, but, like... It's
still hard not to fall in love with Derek, even though I don't have a super high opinion of Derek as a whole. It's hard to not, even if you, like, go in knowing that he dies, it's hard not to get invested.
For sure. Totally. And I remember at the time, like, not really loving his character at that moment, but, like, once he dies and everything, and you are taken, like, through, obviously, like, how Meredith finds out and has to tell her kids and everything, it's just such a heartbreaking, like,
and we don't
emotionally
see that
traumatic
with the kids until season 13, so, like...
Yeah.
We had a couple seasons to, like, feel it, and then we feel it in a whole different way. The scene with the kids got me more than his original death did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's one of my favorite episodes. That's I forget what the episode number is, but the episode's called The Room Where It Happens. It's a really great episode. This is the first time we get Richard backstory in, like, most of the show. It's in season 13.
Which is crazy, too.
He's one of the only 4 OGs left. Now we're down to 3 OGs, like...
Yeah, don't even get me started on that. That's actually another thing we can talk about is Alex's exit from Grey's.
Yeah, let's talk about that
Let's talk about that for a
Moira, have you gotten to that
minute.
Specific episode yet?
No,
but you're on. But you know what happens already.
Gone to Iowa, and I'm like, he's not coming back, is he?
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's not in Iowa. It's fine.
Oh my god. I cannot believe that they ruined his character and his character development with 1 episode's worth of story.
Yeah, it was rough. I'm sure the writers were in a really tough spot here, just because Justin Chambers had to leave so unexpectedly that they didn't have time to prepare or anything like that. But it was rough to see them undo this Alex character development, to undo this beautiful, beautiful relationship between Alex and Joe. It was hard to watch. It was upsetting.
Oh, absolutely upsetting, and totally, like, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect him to go in that way. I had to take a little break from Grey's because I was so angry at the writers.
Oh yeah, you took a break.
I took a break because I was so angry and personally offended that they would do that to Alex, and it's just, like, doesn't make sense to me for the character. And poor Joe.
I'm a low-key Meredith shipper, too. Like, I don't ship them, but I ship them. Especially since Derek died.
Right.
Like, I didn't ship them when Derek was alive. Like, I'm not crazy. Like, I've said this on, I think, episode 1. I think I said this literally in episode 1. Like, I'm willing to go wherever the show sends me.
Yeah.
In terms of, like,
fair.
romance, like if there's a love triangle, I'm usually pretty happy no matter what the outcome is. So like obviously like when the show was pro Meredith, I was pro Meredith, like
right.
But like I've since Derek died, I've shipped Meredith with a variety of people, and Alex is one of them, especially in seasons 12 and 13 when he was like not in a good place with Joe. He was helping Meredith with the kids so much. And, like, to find out that Alex's child would be really close in age to Meredith's middle child, like, right between her middle and her youngest child, like, that was very upsetting to me that he would leave Meredith and not want her to contact him and, like, not want their kids to meet, like, was upsetting for me. Like, I was more upset that he was willing to leave the kids than I was that he was willing to leave his job or his wife or even Meredith. Like, Alex raised those kids. Especially, Ellis. Like, Derek was already dead when Ellis was born, which is a whole dramatic moment in itself.
True.
It's the reveal that Meredith was pregnant. I mean, we didn't have a lot of time to sit with it. We had, like, an episode.
Yeah,
true. To sit with it, but, like, yeah, like, let's be honest, like, Alex is definitely has to be Ellis's, like, father figure that she's grown up with, and it was upsetting that he just left them.
I think I can get behind Grey's, like, their decisions as a show as a whole a lot of the time, but that decision, I think I would have rather him have died in some, like, heroic way that made sense for the character.
Yeah, saving a kid or something.
Yeah, even if we hadn't seen his actual, like Justin Chambers wouldn't have even had to come back. Even if we don't see him again physically, make up some story that, like, keeps his character development intact.
Yeah, like, we technically didn't see George again. Like, I mean, like, we did, but, like, he was not recognizable.
Yeah. Exactly.
And, like, we didn't see the accident that happened. Like, a George, like, death would have been A-okay for me.
I think I would have preferred it.
Never
mind. They could have added something with his mom, though, that, like, he had to move and, like, live with her, and Joe wasn't ready to, like, go live with her, so they were still together, but they weren't living.
Yeah, I think that that's just because they wanted to keep Joe on the show. I think that the way that Joe and Alex's relationship works, which was what was so great about the relationship, is that Joe would have picked up everything and moved.
Yeah. Which they probably thought about. They had to figure out something that was going to separate them.
It's not Camila Livingston's fault that Justin Chambers had to leave unexpectedly, and her character is so great. And I actually really like how Joe finished out the season without Alex. Like, I like the direction that Joe was going, especially because Joe had such a rough season in season 15. Like, mentally, like, Joe had some rough mental health stuff and some trauma happening to her in season 15. And I like that Alex leaving actually, like, it was hard for her and it was upsetting for her, but it didn't end her whole world.
Which is good. And it'll be good to see Jo, like, stand on her own, like, for a while, because we haven't seen her be single.
She's free of Paul. She's, you know, newly single again. Like,
exactly.
She's really free to do anything she wants now. Like, even though, like, she's had this great time with Alex, like, she's definitely still had, like, you know, like, the whole time that she was, like, getting together with Alex, like, she had this whole Paul ex-husband thing hanging over her.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have that anymore. So hopefully good things are in the future for Jo, which I imagine they are. She seems like she's kind of amazing. Like, she's got a bright career ahead of her, so.
Yeah. But at least there is a bright side to that, like, crazy friggin' plot.
Ed and KJ, to somewhat snarkily add that we recorded this before season 17 started, and we could not have anticipated that Jo and Jackson would ever even cross paths, but they have somehow. And we're not sure how we feel about it, but we're just gonna let the show take us where we want to take it. It just wasn't what we had in mind for Jo this season, but good for her. Good for her.
This unlike a lot of the other Grey's Anatomy moments we could talk about, this one's still really fresh. It's still
very fresh. I still am a little bitter about it. Moving on to the next Grey's crazy moment, the Elvad Wire and Ghost Denny storylines.
This Denny Ghost storyline was on every list of TV moments where people stop watching. Every single TV moments where people stop watching list had this Denny storyline. And I'll be honest, I'm with people here. I don't know how any of us continued to watch the show past this point.
No, I don't know.
I mean, by the time that Moira started watching, you and I were so invested, Faith. I don't know how you or I got through this.
No, I don't know.
This is so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
If if you haven't seen Grey's Anatomy and you're just like listening to this because you don't care about spoilers, so you don't have intentions, what we're talking about here is there's a storyline where one of the doctors starts dating a patient, which is a big no-no.
Mm-hmm.
And then after he dies, she starts seeing his ghost, and it turns out that she has cancer in her brain, which is why she's seeing this ghost. They have ghost sex, though. It is out of control.
That's what I was just gonna say that. Yeah. Like, and yeah, that's not all. She's not just seeing him, but she also has sex with his ghost.
Loud sex.
Like, what is happening? Are you kidding me?
At least one of my favorite moments. I have to say, the moment where they're all up, it's like 3 a.m, and like Meredith and Alex are like leaving to go to the hospital. Like Alex just comes in and then is on his way back with the door, and Izzy's in her room making very loud sex noises. And Meredith's like, if you and I are out here, then I need to go yell for my boyfriend and make sure he's not the one that's in there. And then Derek just stumbles out of the bedroom, like half asleep, like, why are you yelling? What's wrong?
That is iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best things.
What are you doing out here?
Well, I think you're the only one who paid off a nurse to page you with an appy.
That's not what I meant. That's what I meant. If you're out here, then who's in there with Izzy? Derek?
What? What? What's the matter?
Nothing. I just,
What are you doing dressed? It's 3 a.m. Who's making a porno movie in Izzy's room?
I don't know how people watched it on TV. Like, I got through that because I binge watched the entire season and just moved on.
Yeah, week to
but
week,
like people, I'm like,
that's
I get why people stopped watching
this
if they were watching
season
it week
that
to week.
happened like during/after the Katherine Heigl Emmy nomination writers drama, where Katherine Heigl badmouthed some writers in an interview about the kind of content that she was getting, and then this Izzy storyline happened and she got written off the show.
Yeah, and like, is that are they just trying to like make Izzy? I don't know. Are they trying to make her suffer, like, because she's Katherine Heigl? Like, what is actually happening?
I think it was partially that, and then partially, like, Katherine Heigl's complaint was that she wasn't having a major dramatic emotional storyline that season the way she had in the previous season.
Oh my goodness.
And then,
careful what you wish for.
Yeah, because this was just out of control crazy.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
And then prior to the ghost Denny stuff was like the actual stuff with his heart transplant where they cut his LVAD wire, which is like keeping his heart beating properly. I don't know what an LVAD does, let's be honest.
Yeah, but it was too...
But they cut it and it makes him flatline so that he'll move up the donor list.
Mm-hmm.
And it's insane. It is literally they should have all been fired.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
None of them are doctors anymore.
Yeah.
That's the moment where every single one of them gets fired.
Yeah. Like,
the way that they get out of this is they all admit to doing it, even though Izzy's the one that did it.
Right. So they can't fire
all of
the
them,
one who did it because
all of them are saying that they did it.
Exactly.
However, that's not how that works. All of them should just be fired.
Yeah, all of them should have just been fired.
Sure.
Like, we don't know which one of you actually did it, but since you're all saying that you did it, this is a fireable offense. You're all fired.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah. But, Greys didn't want to get rid of all of their main characters, so...
Yeah. And I'm going to actually use this just a segue, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
So, in a more recent season, Meredith committed insurance fraud and did not give a fuck about it. And they try and pull this tactic again, where Richard and Alex and Meredith and DeLuca all say that they're the ones that did it. It wasn't Meredith. They're the ones that put her name on, and they all get fired that time because that's how it's supposed to work.
That would be how it works. But
somehow they all are still doctors.
Yeah,
but
somehow. I mean,
shocking.
At least there was some consequences. I mean, not enough consequences, and it's hard. It's hard because Meredith shouldn't have had to commit insurance fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is so
that's
awful.
A very valid point. Meredith's whole point is that she committed this insurance fraud to get this girl healthcare, and healthcare should have just been provided to this girl regardless of what her insurance situation was. And she's correct. Mm-hmm. However, she still committed insurance fraud, and that's still a crime.
Yeah.
And who doesn't get to be a doctor? People who commit crimes.
Yes. Those are some of the people who aren't allowed to be doctors.
Especially sergeants who,
criminals.
like, just knock you out and cut into you. Like, criminals don't get to do that. But you know what?
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's
it's
Grey's
crazy.
Anatomy.
Yeah, and I'm glad that there was, like, consequence for that, but yeah, that was another crazy storyline with the whole, you know, I'll just commit insurance fraud, like, I'm Meredith Grey, and why shouldn't I?
I thought that was a very important storyline, though, to, like, tell people about insurance fraud and, like, how awful the healthcare system is. But, like, she also should have been fired.
There were some other issues there, too. Because, she committed insurance fraud, but, like, and, like, that was important. But also, she badmouthed her employer during that time.
Yeah.
She didn't mean to badmouth her employer as much as she did. But, like, while she was fired, she badmouthed her employer. And she got her job back, which is crazy. She's the only one of the 3 that got their jobs back right away.
Yeah.
Of the 4 people that got fired, she's the only one that was allowed back to work right away. And then, like, on top of that, even though she was doing this whole, like, insurance fraud thing, and she was sending all these people to the other hospital because it wasn't the hospital that she had just badmouthed, like, whenever it was her own child, she skipped all the lines, she skipped out on court, like, she didn't follow her own rules. She did not practice what she preached.
Not in the slightest.
And I think that that's something interesting. Like, yeah, like, Meredith was like, go to this other hospital, even though that hospital's not running with the same resources as the hospital that they work at. And, like, she was, like, trying to be for insurance, but, like, Meredith Grey didn't sit in a waiting room for a few hours waiting for her kid to get seen. She walked up to the head of neurosurgery and was like, my kid needs a CT scan, please and thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And got it looked at by, like, the head of neuro right away. Yeah,
she didn't sit in an ER. She didn't have to go to court that day.
Exactly. She didn't have to wait, 12 hours in a waiting room.
Yeah, like, a regular person would have had to, like, her kid didn't have very serious symptoms. Like, she was just, like, she had a headache and she threw up one time. Like, yes, it did turn out to be a serious problem, but, like, most people would have to wait for hours and hours in ER. They would have to leave the ER to go to their court date and then maybe come back. And then
maybe
wait
go
for
into
hours
debt because they can't afford the medical bills then.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she did not practice what she preached at all there.
So, another crazy Grey's moment is Ben losing it in season 12. Just, like, straight up losing everything. Just losing his mind.
Yeah, Ben did a couple of surgeries that were outside the OR, weren't authorized by attendings, just straight up lost his mind.
Yeah.
It was out of control.
Well, didn't he do one with, like, part of a clipboard?
Yes, he did it. He did a surgery. He opened up a man's chest and, like, held an aortic bleed in his hand using a piece of a clipboard. And, like, that was fine. He saved that guy's life. He got in, like, a little bit of trouble for it, but it wasn't a big deal. And then the next one he did after that one, the hospital got locked down for a few minutes, and he opened up a woman, like, either in an elevator or outside of an elevator, and, like, her and her baby both died. And, like, the doors reopened in a couple minutes, and it would have been fine. Yeah. And he killed both of them.
Suddenly, Ben is this character that's, like, taking risks and, like, feeling like things are urgent, because obviously they are, but, like, I don't think properly calculating the risk reward kind of situation.
There's a word that I can't think of now, but it's, like, something I learned about in psychology. It's like how you, like, read, like, how much of a threat something is. And you can get, like, a positive, where it's, like, it is something scary and it's a danger, and, like, or it's, like, not something scary, but it's a danger, or, like, but, like, like, he's not reading it, like, he's not interpreting it correctly. Yeah,
suddenly he thinks that he's like this, and he's still an intern, right, at this point?
Or, like, resident, like, but
resident,
definitely not an attending.
I honestly don't think he got better, though. Like, he still continues to do that. Unlike later seasons of Grey's and then into Station 19. He's always, like,
for a while in Grey's, he swings back the other way, like, where he's too conservative. Where Richard's like, oh, like he did learn the lesson when they punished him, but, like, he went too far, and now he's, like, not taking any risks at all.
Right, which you
And he's playing
can't
it
do when you're a
Tuesdays,
doctor.
which is also harmful to patients. And then he just gives up on surgery and becomes a firefighter.
Right, which is maybe better because I think
it's better.
Yeah, it's better that you're risking that you're taking these big risks when you're going into a fire rather than sticking your hands in someone's chest.
It's still not great.
Yeah,
because
it's still not great.
If you get into over your head, like I said in the recommendations, I'm watching Chicago Fire, and that's a big thing. Is it's okay if you want to run into an unsafe situation, but it's going to be your fellow firefighters that have to go in after you if you get into trouble, and then one of them is going to get hurt or dead.
Exactly.
So it's still bad, but you're right. Ben's never really evened out. After season 12.
On Station 19, I'm watching him ask for the surgery options and how he's a surgeon, all this stuff, and I keep thinking, you never finished residency. Mm-hmm. Can you even be saying that?
I think he did get board certified. I might be wrong.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they ever officially said it.
I think that he did technically get board certified. So I think he's fine. He was never hired as an attending. But I think he was done. Once you're board certified, you're done residency.
Mm-hmm. Because he was the same year as Joe, and Joe is still a resident for another season after Ben left. And I'm did he ever? Yeah, I don't remember that.
I don't either. But either way, he'd still be a doctor. He'd still be a doctor and still be a surgeon. Mm-hmm. It's just but I think you'll find as you get to where he has the PRT, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. That is you get to take every single risk because at that point you have nothing to lose. It's for people where they need an OR but you can't get them to an OR. You don't have the time to even take them by ambulance to an OR. Right. That's what it's for. Yeah. And I think you'll find that that is you get to take every single risk you could ever want to take in that situation because
that's what Ben is made for.
Yeah,
that's what he's supposed to.
I think that we just put him now into a situation where he's good, and it's so weird that this doesn't really seem to apply to his personal life either. This is he loses it in his career. He doesn't seem to lose it in his relationship. Obviously there's strain caused because his wife is his boss during all of this. Mm-hmm. Losing it, but in terms of his relationship with his wife, he doesn't take these same crazy risks that he does in his career at all. Yeah. It's so weird.
Somehow he doesn't crave that same adrenaline and crazy risk.
He has a really comfortable life.
Yeah, he lives totally. He's such a calm
influence.
He is the calm to Bailey's storm.
Yeah, Bailey has legit diagnosed OCD. She needs a calming influence in their relationship,
and he is. Somehow he totally is.
Somehow is that.
But it's just such a weird, crazy moment of
I love Ben, but I still fast forward through this season 12 Ben cutting people open for no real reason storyline. I know, I'll fast forward through those scenes. They're hard to watch.
Fair.
Very. Yeah, and him doing April's C-section is one of the most intense scenes.
I love that scene, but it's intense. Yeah. I definitely if you watch the season 14 finale where he does a C-section on one of the other doctors and it is an actual emergency. He does actually have to do it in this case. But it's intense. I don't know how they film this.
No, I don't know. And wasn't she actually pregnant at the time too?
I think so too. I can't even imagine.
So. I can't. Oh my god, I can't imagine. But it's just so weird that he nothing.
Sarah Drew is a rock star.
True. Yeah.
Grey's Anatomy done fucked up when they hired Sarah Drew.
Oh, totally. Oh
or
my god.
Failed to invite her back for another season.
Yeah, it's not the same without her.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ben. I don't know what what caused that breakdown. Yeah. What he suddenly became. And like you said, just in his career too is so
there is something in Station 19 that we find out about Ben's past in I think the most recent season.
Yes, I just watched it.
There's an episode about something that happened to Ben as a kid that actually might be an explanation for all of this. This whole Ben trajectory, but even still, it's just this is too much. This is too far.
Yeah. Okay, so any other Grey's moments that weren't mentioned here?
I have one more where I was this is a lot. It's in the season 9 finale, Jackson runs into an exploding bus.
Yes. Oh, yes, that is
so mad.
Everybody in this show wants to be a firefighter. Jackson and Ben are very similar in a lot of ways, and like
very true.
Which Jackson, Moira probably hasn't gotten as far, but Jackson shows up a lot in the latest season of Station 19, and he helps out on Ben's PRT a lot.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, he goes and hangs out with Ben in the PRT and does like surgery in the PRT van quite a bit.
Oh, I love it.
They both seem to be like a little bit like, surgery is really great, and like Jackson's definitely more into surgery than Ben's ever been, but like, yeah, sometimes Jackson also thinks he's a firefighter.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Jackson is just, he's a character that I think sometimes thinks he's invincible, which I think kind of plays a role into that moment specifically, going into the bus and... Yeah.
him and Ben in the season 14 finale, where this whole, like, Ben wants to be a firefighter storyline came from. I guess that was the season 13 finale. Like, Jackson also wanted to run back into that burning building. Like, the two of them are really into firefighting, even though they're surgeons. I mean, now Ben is a firefighter, so like, he can run to as many burning buildings as he wants. But Jackson in season 9 just like stays in this building, in this bus he knows is gonna explode because he has to save this girl, and like he's the only one that can save her.
Yeah, like, I would like to see him in a firefighting uniform. I'm just like gonna throw that out there.
Jackson,
I think it would suit him.
Looks really hot all the time.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh my god, that would be great. I would love to see him as a firefighter. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Jackson did decide that was a career change, I mean, I can't see him ever making that career change just because he's like so skilled. Sloan did not put all that effort into Jackson for Jackson not to stick to surgery.
Very true.
But yes, I think if anybody else was gonna make that switch, it would be Jackson.
100%.
Yeah, and to kind of like break out from like under his mom and his like whole family being so intertwined with the hospital and medical field, it would make sense. But maybe in another like parallel universe, maybe that happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to Riverdale?
Hey guys, it's Ed and KJ here to tell you about what happened to the Riverdale section of this episode. So we ended up talking so much about Riverdale that we decided that we were going to do a bonus episode on Boxing Day. So on December 26th, 2020, we were going to release an additional episode in addition to our episode that would be coming out on the Friday. There'll be an episode on Saturday. There'll just be crazy Riverdale moments because Riverdale was just so crazy that we needed a whole extra episode to talk about it. So we just decided to cut it from this week's episode. We still talk about it a little bit in the Ender segments, but we don't talk about it in the episode as a whole because it got its own episode now. So enjoy the rest of this episode, but we won't be talking about Riverdale.
This is so the opposite of our first episode. Like, our very first episode, what makes it good, is about like all the good things that happen. And this one really feels like these are all the things that shows did that were just like too much or too far or like not well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
We still watched the shows. We still love the shows.
Exactly.
But like,
we've watched every episode. Yeah. What do you guys think? I think we were gonna skip Pretty Little Liars.
Okay, I said that, but then I wrote some stuff, if you guys don't mind. And I know Moira doesn't hate spoilers, and we're not going to get too spoilery.
No, I can live with spoilers. It'll be fine.
Okay, yeah. So, what do you have for Pretty Little Liars? I didn't write anything down.
Yeah,
because
I said I wanted to skip it. So, my first one is like a series of moments, and it's like every time that A legitimately tried to kill them, because A, like, that would end the game. Like, the whole point for all of the A's over the years has been to play the game, and like the game ends as soon as they're dead. Like,
right.
So I don't get any of the times where their lives were legitimately in danger. I don't understand what the plan was there. And also, even though they did a lot of horrible things, aside from like maybe Jenna, none of them did anything that bad to deserve getting murdered.
No, I agree.
Especially like pre-series.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And then the Jenna and Toby storyline.
Yes, of course. That
so
is
awful.
So awful. Awful.
I think what the liars did to Jenna was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But like the Jenna assaulting Toby, like, storyline isn't addressed fully or often enough, and it just like kind of misses the mark for me. Like, they tried to do something there, and it doesn't land for me. I think they tried to do something, and their intentions were really good with, like, because, you know, like, the whole stereotype was that Toby was the one that was doing something wrong. But he was the victim in this situation. It was the woman that was doing, or the girl that was doing something bad.
Yeah,
she wasn't even a woman. She was a child. I mean, she was still doing something horrible, but let's be honest, she wasn't an adult either.
Right.
So I think that they were doing something interesting there by, like, bringing some, like, attention to, like, the fact that, like, boys and men can be victims.
Yeah, and they can be abused too. Yeah,
and abuse and stuff. But also, like, they also, like, didn't quite hit the mark there, and it honestly, a storyline, like, makes me a little bit sick.
Yeah,
it's really gross.
Yeah, I think it steps a little bit too far, and I don't know. Maybe it was because, like, it didn't happen to one of the main, like, 4, so it feels like it, like, wasn't given enough attention to be, like, well done enough, maybe? I don't know. It's very,
I think I had, like, made my peace with it until season 6 or 7, when, like, we see that flashback where they kind of, like, reconcile, and then Jenna tries to kiss him again, and they're like, they're adults now, and, like, there's no excuse for it.
Yeah, totally.
And, like, it's a lot. It's upsetting. And then
it's rough.
Yeah, we should just not dwell on it too much because it's upsetting. My, like, other, like, big, really shocking one, it's one that, like, is, like, literally a 1-episode thing, so, like, I didn't think of it right away, but, like, doing dental surgery to implant a note in one of Hannah's tooth. Some things are sacred, and I believe the goddamn dentist should be one of those things. Okay?
What?
I'm so gonna...
implanted the little tiny note in Hannah's tooth, and knocks her out while she's at the dentist.
The goddamn dentist has got to be a sacred place. If nothing else, if I can't trust you with my teeth, I mean...
Yeah, what are we doing?
Honestly, that is fantastic.
So also the number of doll and mask makers in the Philly area that are doing custom orders for Allie mask and liar doll. Has so many dolls that have been made to look like the liars, and so many masks that look like Allie's face.
Gross.
We've seen a couple of the stores that these things come from, but, like, there has to be more than one, because continues to get these things, and just, how come the store owners aren't asking questions? It's exactly that TikTok that Ellen from Obsessed with Disappeared made with the Walmart employee and the murderer buying murder supplies. Ask some freaking questions, but when you're selling things that are creepy, okay? If you're selling murder, like, body disposal supplies, ask some questions, take a note, maybe, like, earmark that security camera footage just in case the police come by. Do something.
Record over the security footage.
Same thing
of
with
the
your
same person.
Your one customer that orders, like, 4 dolls that look the same all the time. Like, 4 really specific dolls in different sizes and styles, but all have, like, the same, like, basis.
Yeah, like, at what point does just start sending the actual pictures of the girls to the doll maker? Just make them look like them.
And maybe the doll maker could just, like, call the police and be like, hey, someone wants me to make a mask, and they sent me pictures of actual girls on which to base them. Maybe you should just make sure that these girls are okay.
Yeah.
And here's the information I have on this person that picks them up.
I mean, business is business. I think I'll just record right over top of this security tape. I'm sure that there's no crime going on.
It's fine. It's in, like, zero quality anyway.
It was recorded on a potato anyway, so I mean, what good is it really to the police?
I love that.
So I have, like, 2 more, so I'll talk about one, and then I'll let you say any that I haven't covered, and then, like, my last one's kind of a big one, so I want to leave it to the end.
Okay.
So it's the wearing of hats in the high school classroom and the high grade classroom that's happening. Because hats are confiscated in our high school more than cell phones. You could never pull off any of these outfits that they wear because you wouldn't be allowed to wear that hat for 2 minutes.
I mean, if you wanted to, like,
you weren't allowed to wear your hat between your locker and your door and the door of the school. Like, you came in and you took your hat off and you held it until you got to your locker, and then at the end of the day, you didn't put it back on until you got back outside the building.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I had my cell phone everywhere I went.
True.
Oh, absolutely. People would be texting in class, but if someone beside them put a hat on, like, the teacher would actually have, like, an actual, like, aneurysm. I mean,
and this seems
so
to be
offensive.
A universal thing. Like, kids now in Zoom school are being told they can't wear hats in Zoom school. I'm like, I'm in my own goddamn house.
Yeah, I'm in my PJs. Like, you're
don't
telling me I can't wear a hat.
What to wear. So the fact that none of them have ever been told to take their hat off just because they look good that day. Spencer in particular has some great hats.
Arya too has some really cute beanies that she wears.
Arya has equal beanies and fedoras, and
yes,
somehow makes this work. But yeah, anyway, is there any that you wanted to talk about? Even though you didn't write me down because I tricked you.
I've been tricked. Well, I don't know if this is your last one, but there's the whole Spencer twin storyline.
That was not my last one. It almost was, but I want to talk about a different A. So
okay.
Yeah, Spencer having a twin is a lot.
It was a lot. I think I've made peace with it over the years that the show has been over. I think it doesn't get me as riled up as it used to.
I think it was, I mean, it comes out of nowhere, but if you look back, there are specific moments you can go back to where, like, this is the twin and not Spencer.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. I feel like...
And it was a theory for a long time that one of them had a twin.
Right. Yeah, so it's something that I
it's a lot, though. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And
it was a lot for the show to end on.
Exactly. You're waiting, like, because we knew that the show was ending, right? So, like, you're waiting for it to all wrap up, and this is how they wrap it up, that it's Spencer has had a twin.
Yeah.
And so at the time, it just felt like a lot. Yeah. Like, what? It felt really out of left field. And then Cece being Charles, too.
That's my last one.
Okay. So let's move into that one then, the last one. That's a big one.
Yeah. So we're probably going to do a whole episode on the depiction of, like, trans people in media.
Yes.
But boy, oh boy, was this particular depiction rough.
It was a rough storyline altogether.
I'll be honest, I was following it. So the show actually does a good job to a point. We get you, this person named Charles is A, and this person, Charles, is a De Laurentiis, is related to the De Laurentiis family. I'm on board for this. It worked. We got here. The clues made sense to get us to this point. Charles is A and Charles is a De Laurentiis. We're here.
Yes, we're following. We're on the train tracks. We're going smooth.
There's no logical way for us to guess that Charles is trans and is now going by Cece or Charlotte or whatever you want to
and
use.
That Charles is this woman that we've met one time or twice, I feel like maybe once.
We definitely had met her a few times. Like, she was definitely a player for a while. There's no way for us to have guessed that this person would be that person. Like, not even, like, looking back.
Exactly.
Like, you can't even go back through and figure this out.
Yeah, there's no clues whatsoever.
And, like, it's designed to have shock value. What I would compare it to is, like, because it's what I compare all kind of storylines like this to is in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. How are we supposed to know that Barty Crouch Jr. is alive? There's no way for us to guess that. And for here, I think there's no way for us to guess that Charles is Cece. Like, there's no way for us to guess that. It's just, and they've told it this way for the shock value, and I think it's gross to do that. And I think it's gross to use this trans storyline in this way and, like, perpetuate this stereotype of this trans woman being dangerous or mentally ill. I don't like it. I think that they've just really, really missed the mark, and I don't even know if we can say that that's a product of the time. This was in the 2000s. In the 2010s, like...
Yeah, I mean, I think that at the time, it would be easy to be like, well, I mean, representation, like, any representation is good, but, like, looking back, it's not. Just, like, it's really not. And it doesn't, I mean, I don't know. I think
some things that they've done, that they did with the Charlotte character after this reveal was maybe better, but it all stems from this poor use here. And exactly. I don't like that. I don't like how this worked.
Yeah, and I mean,
there's no way for us to have guessed it, like, which I don't like.
Yeah, you know, like, I feel like in Pretty Little Liars especially, like, part of what's so great about being a fan is that anyone could be A, but, like, this was not something that we could guess, and it also feels like it feels kind of dirty because it feels like the writers just made Charles trans so that they could, like, make this a reveal. Rather than, like, this is a character, this is a trans character, and then they just also happen to be A.
Their whole motivation for being A is, like, because of, like, mistreatment as a trans person. And, like, I just don't enjoy it. And it doesn't make any sense for their issue to be with like, Spencer and Arya and Hannah and Emily.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
No,
I don't even really remember what like the specific, like what Charlotte's specific issues with them even were.
No, me neither. I think a lot of it was all chalked up to like, oh, she's crazy. Like,
I think a lot of it was like a lot of it was I want to get close to Allie, and Allie's gone, and you know, and so the only way I can get close to Allie is through these people that were her friends or something like that, and then like she meets Mona, and like Mona has already done all of this work,
right? And
she just kind of like takes over for Mona, but like, yeah, I just don't even remember what the specific motivation even was for her to have an issue with the liars in particular.
No,
like I understood her motivation for having an issue with like Kenneth and Jessica.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, totally.
But I don't even remember what her issue was with like Spencer and Emily and Hannah and Arya. And like that's how I know that this was bad because I don't remember what her issue even was with them to even like motivate her to do any of this horrible stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Then again brings me to my point. Nothing they did, like my very first point. Why was she trying to kill them?
Exactly. What was the goal? Why? Yeah. What would you get out of that?
What was the goal in killing them or almost killing them anytime?
Yeah, like how would that, if being closer to Allie was her goal, I mean, killing them is not going to do that. I mean, even if you wanted to get closer to the friends, I mean, again, killing them, the game is over.
Was there anything else you want to talk about, Pretty Little Liars, or like?
I don't think so. I think those were the two ones that I had kind of thought about as I was making my notes, but I didn't write down because you tricked me.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to Gossip Girl then.
Sure, let's do Gossip Girl.
So I really only have two for this one.
I can't remember if I added my second one to the
you
notes, but
you did, but they were the only two that I had to begin with.
Okay, that's good then. We're all on the same page.
Perfect.
Moira, have you watched Gossip Girl?
She watched a couple episodes, but she
5 episodes, so I know nothing.
Well, you know,
this doesn't really spoil anything either in terms of who Gossip Girl is or anything like that. So
it's just two really dumb moments in the whole show. So
incredible.
So we'll start with Jenny being run out of New York by Blair for sleeping with Chuck.
Yeah, this was so over the top to me, and it kind of is explained that this was something that Jenny kind of orchestrated herself.
Right.
In the finale, once we know everything about who Gossip Girl was, we kind of find out that Jenny kind of planned this on purpose because she didn't want to tell her dad that she wanted to leave New York City and live with her mom. But it's just so crazy. They're like late. They're into like, I guess, college and university at this point, but like they're still young adults, and like, could you imagine just like, you've slept with my boyfriend, never come back to Manhattan again? 8 million people.
I mean,
what's the population of Manhattan? It's in the millions.
A lot. I don't know. How in the world would us from a small town in Ontario, Canada, know what the population of Manhattan is offhand? I can hear her Googling in the background.
1.6 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's just like the one part of New York City.
Yeah,
like
8 million. That's just Manhattan.
8 million.
Yeah, New York as a whole has a population of 8 million people.
Okay.
Manhattan is 1.6 million people. But, you know, she slept with her boyfriend, so she can just never return.
Obviously.
I mean, it kind of tracks for who Blair is, in a way.
But yeah, like, what's Blair really gonna do if Jenny comes back?
True. I mean, it tracks for her to think that she can just ban someone from the whole of Manhattan, but...
Yeah. It's just a ridiculous thing to even say.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
And, like,
but I mean, what else?
She's not that mad at Chuck. I mean, she's mad at Chuck, but like, she gets over it and stays with Chuck / gets back together with Chuck. I don't remember what her relationship status was with Chuck at that time. Moira is so grossed out that Blair and Chuck are even a thing because she hasn't fallen in love with Chuck yet. And I'll be honest, Chuck tries to commit a sexual assault in like the first episode, so I understand where Moira's coming from.
Yeah, he's a really yucky character for like most of it, but Blair and Chuck are one of my all-time.
He's very Logan Eccles-esque, Moira, where we hate him for like a season and then we grow into it.
I will believe you for now. Until I get to the point where I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing is also Blair,
Yeah, Blair and Chuck are one of my favorite all-time ships ever. So yeah, our second huge like what WTF is happening moment is Blair and Dan becoming a thing. That
it's very,
is
very brief and kind of gross. And I'll be honest, I didn't hate it too much.
Oh my god, I hated it so much. I hated it with every single atom in my body.
I love it.
I have less feelings that I do with Buckhead about Cher. But I think that Cher also has some toxic elements. But I think that the show actually acknowledges that there's some toxic elements and deals with them in a productive way that Riverdale has failed to do thus far. If Riverdale could do that this season, I'll forgive it. I'll get back on board.
Yeah, I really wouldn't hold my breath on that.
But yeah, like I think that Blair and Chuck also had some serious issues that they had to deal with, and I think that Dan and Blair weren't gonna make it as a long-term couple for sure. But I think that the way that he supported Blair was something she hadn't really had before. In a way that she hadn't really had before, and I think she needed that at the time.
Okay.
But it's definitely, I can understand why you were so vehemently against it, because it's a little bit icky, I agree. Two people really could not be less suited for each other. But I think that there's a difference between being not suited for each other long term, and Blair's going through a period of crisis, and she gets support from someone who has not traditionally been Team Blair.
Fair.
And that's Dan.
Okay, well, I respect you. I respect you and the words that are coming out of your mouth, but
you still
not but as well. It's icky, and I think that what would they even talk about? It was on my list of crazy moments as well. I mean, just hanging out, watching TV. What would they even talk about?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, a lot of their time that they spent together was also talking about Chuck and what's his name?
Exactly.
Louis. Was it Louis? Was that his name?
Prince Louis or something?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, a lot of their time together was Blair also juggling two other guys. So
yeah, I mean Dan, after Dan, is supporting her, and them making out or whatever. I mean when they're just hanging out doing laundry or not Blair. I mean obviously
Blair would never do laundry. No, but I know what you mean. When you're just doing normal things that everyday couples do.
I mean, what are they talking about?
Even say to each other? Yeah, I agree. I agree with that entirely.
They're too different. From two totally different worlds, to the point where opposites attract. You'd never think that they'd end up together. It's just too much.
And I think that this probably also is a similar situation to how Logan and Veronica get together. It's Serena's gone for this period of time, if I remember correctly. Serena, she's not really around. Yeah, it's been a long time since I watched this portion of the show too. But if I remember correctly, Serena's not there for either one of them. And Serena is their big tie. Serena's the person that Blair confides in, and Serena's the person that Dan confides in. She's gone. They don't have that. And so I think they're also looking for that little bit of Serena in one another.
Right.
Because they don't have the support system that Serena usually provides for them.
Right.
And so I think that's also playing a role here too. It's the same as with Logan and Veronica, except for that Logan and Veronica are endgame. Logan's girlfriend died and Veronica's best friend died, and they see that part of their friend in each other. This was also on my list. I'm not pro Blair and Dan. I think that Cher is endgame.
Absolutely.
But I see where the show came up with this. I see where the writers were maybe going. Yeah. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just interpreting this wrong and I'm being very generous to the writers.
No, I like your reasoning. I can pump my brakes a little bit on the hatred, but not all the way.
Okay,
fair. Very fair.
So there's one more show I want to talk about,
sure.
For sure, and then we might need to talk about another one to bring the mood back up, because this one's a little rough, and it's actually a show I don't think we've really watched, but I just one I feel was really in the zeitgeist for a while, and it's 13 Reasons Why, and I know it's I know we're getting into some controversial territory with that. So I personally did watch the first season of this show.
I haven't watched any of it.
Me either.
Totally understandable. It's not a show I ever recommend. It's never going to be on our recommended list. I promise, guys. So I do understand that the show put suicide and mental health into the forefront of conversation, and I think that was great. I think that that's a wonderful. I think that that's something that we maybe needed, especially like this came out a couple of years ago, and I watched it because so many people were watching it and talking about it, and I thought that I could handle it. I could not handle it. I binged through it because that's the only way that I watch things. And I watched it in about a day, and I cried for the rest of the weekend, and I never watched season 2 or any of the other seasons that came after. And I think I was on board for the storyline. Even the dying by suicide storyline was okay. I could have handled that. I think it's the final or maybe second last episode of this season where they actually show the suicide, and like it was so graphic, and like I think that it's okay to show some graphic content, especially on a show that runs on a streaming platform that's not on like network TV. But like if you choose to watch this show, you need to be prepared, and you need to have a safe space and a safe person with which you can process this after, because it's hard, it's rough. Like it was upsetting. I was upset when I finished the show, and I was upset for several days in a way that I'm not usually upset by television. Like, I've been less upset about actual things that have actually happened to me in my own life than I was by watching this.
Yeah,
it was very upsetting.
I can back that up.
And it was watched mostly by young people and teens, and like, that's who it's really marketed to. Like, I've seen on a lot of these lists that I was looking at, a lot of these like people stopped watching this. There was an assault scene or something that happened in one of the subsequent seasons, which I didn't watch because the first season was so upsetting. And like I can't even imagine how it would get more upsetting from there. But apparently that scene was also depicted pretty graphically, which is hard for me to even like, just based on what I know that scene to contain, I can't imagine showing that on TV.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I've heard a lot of things about 13 Reasons Why, like really, I mean, being upsetting and like really pushing the envelope of what they can show. It's a lot. And I did just want to talk about it because like it was so popular, especially when the first season came out. I remember like so many people were watching it. And I'm always so interested when shows like that happen now, because it's not like we don't have options. Like everybody used to always watch the same thing because there was only like 4 channels, so you only had 4 options of what to watch on any given day. So everybody kind of watched one of those 4 things that were on Thursday night. Whereas like now we have so many options of what we can watch ever. It's always really interesting for me to see like what everybody's watching, and this was one of them. And I did just want to talk about it because it's a show as a whole where every storyline in the show is crazy or upsetting, but like the finale in particular, or second finale or whatever, was very upsetting. And I remember part of the reason I watched it was because Kate Walsh plays Hannah Baker's mom, and like I love Kate Walsh on Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice, and her performance was really good. But like her performance when she finds Hannah's body like after is really good, but very upsetting. And, like, I think that's an important thing to talk about for sure. Because moments can be, you know, stupid and not written correctly, but they can also be like actually emotionally
too
trying.
Much. Like, this is so the opposite of Riverdale. Like, this is so well written, I think. Like, I found the show to be very well written, and like, you know, people weren't talking about this kind of thing so much before the show came out as they have been since, and like that's really great to see. But like, if you're gonna watch this show, like, it's as bad as you think it's gonna be, plus a little bit more, and you need to be prepared for that, and you need to have a safe space and a safe person that you can go to with those emotions.
Is there like an extra like warning at all with that episode, or is it just like the standard Netflix?
I don't remember, but I feel like the whole show as a show, I think might have like a R rating or something like that.
Right, which is good.
I don't remember. It was a while ago when I watched it.
Yeah, because I remember like coming into class and like all the 16-year-old like popular girls were talking about how great this show is, and that's just crazy that like it was something like you said, like that everyone was watching, but that it you know gets so graphic and awful and emotional. At the end, like that's a lot for people to go through. I mean, and everyone who watched that show.
I was physically affected by watching it. Like, like physically, I felt bad for like 3 days after I finished. It was upsetting.
Wow, not good.
So maybe we need to talk about one more show before we wrap up.
Sure. Which one do you want to wrap it up with?
I'm gonna give the choice to Moira.
Oh,
Sure.
goodness. I'm not
So Moira, you can choose between Glee or Jane the Virgin.
I think I need to talk about Jane the Virgin.
Okay.
Which is another show I've never watched before, but I would really like to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
So we're gonna
you
spoil a
need
little
to.
bit for you, but like
Sure.
the whole show's great. So
I probably won't remember anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Like, just when Michael dies was already upsetting enough.
yes, it was very upsetting. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We
Because
thought
they
that
made him
Michael was-
fine.
Yeah.
He was
So
supposed
Michael-
to be fine.
If you haven't watched the show, just for like enough backstory to understand, but not too much just to ruin the show for Faith, Michael is seriously injured, and then he makes a full recovery, and half of a season goes by, if not a whole season.
Yeah.
It's definitely at least half a season, if not a whole season goes by, where he's
Quite a bit
recovered
of
from
time.
that injury, and then he has a complication from this injury and just dies suddenly.
Yeah.
That's just rude.
And
My
it's
heart
very
hurts.
upsetting. Very upsetting, but very well done. Very well done.
Mhm.
In terms of like how it was. The show was really made by the narrator and like the style, the telenovela style, and the telenovela narration of the show. And so I think that this moment is really well done in that sense. Like it, very beautiful looking, and like I can picture now as I'm talking about, I can picture Jane dropping the phone when she gets the call that Michael's died, and like just the screaming.
Because
And,
like
oh,
Michael's death was sad. Jane's reactions to Michael's death was
worse.
when I started crying.
Yeah.
I didn't even start crying until that
For
moment.
me, it's the same as in Grey's Anatomy. Like, McDreamy dying is good. It's for me when Meredith passes out in the attending lounge when she tells everybody.
Mhm.
That's when I got upset.
Yeah.
Was when she has to say it 3 times because nobody's really listening or paying attention. Everyone's going about their morning like everything's normal because for them it is. And then on top of that, we have this horrible, horrible thing that happens to Michael. And then we find out that Michael hasn't actually died and he has amnesia.
And it's just...
After he had this death experience, he suffered from amnesia, so he's been wandering around with no idea what his life was like.
For like a long time.
For a while. And then
Years.
Yeah, for like 3 years. And then he gets reconnected with Jane, and it's really upsetting for Jane because it's not Michael anymore. He doesn't have any memory of their life together.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets his memory back, and they don't end up together. Moira's happy with how things came out. Like
that's another moment where I was like, okay, whatever the show has chosen to do, I'm okay with it.
She went with the love triangle flow, and I do think that they both ended up with okay endings. But it's never sat right with me. They were soulmates.
No.
And it's never sat right with me that they would just let each other go. Even though like they both changed a lot in like a couple of years went by. I
think they were soulmates for that moment, but like people can have more than one soulmate.
That's true. I mean, I don't know. I really liked.
Yeah.
In the initial like few seasons, I actually was pretty pro Jane and Raphael.
Really, I was very pro Michael until
in the first
Michael
season
died.
in particular. In the first season in particular, I was pro Jane and Raphael because I didn't like how Michael reacted to the situation.
True.
On which the show was based. And then once they get back together, I'm like fully on board with Michael. And then it was just upsetting for them to do this whole amnesia storyline.
I know.
It felt mean. Like, and I mean like an Izzy and Denny let's just do something crazy kind of mean. Like, this was unnecessary and mean because it didn't really add anything.
No, it just made your heart hurt more for fun.
Because Jane had already moved on. Like, 3 years had gone by or something like that in the show.
They time
so
jumped
she had moved on and, like, was happy with someone else again. And then this person came back, and then they don't end up together. So it's not like he came back so they could get back together. He just came back to create a whole horrible issue for Jane and, like, in her new relationship and cause upset in her life. And it doesn't have any payoff. It was upsetting.
It's still one of my favorite shows. Like, I could rewatch that forever.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. This was not the upper that I was expecting it to be.
It was not.
Wow. I mean, let's move on to our segments anyways.
Yeah.
So first we have Love It or Lose It, where we talk about one thing from the episode that we love and one thing that we don't love so much. We can, for all our segments this week, we can be a little bit more casual about it. If you have something to add, you can add it, and if not, that's okay too. Mine for this week, for love, I actually really like the way that Derek was taken from the show. Like, the actual Derek dying is horrible and really sad, but from like an unbiased like person watching a show that was written by other people, I think it was really fittingly ironic that like he is a neurosurgeon and he died because like he didn't get
good health care,
proper like neurological examination, and then also like heartbreaking
and not in
enough.
a way that's like been mean. Like, Amelia's had a few similar irony situations happen, and like they've been mean.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course it allows like Meredith to like stand on her own.
I like single Meredith a lot. I agree.
Yes. Yeah, I really like Meredith post Derek, and I think it was good. It was good to see her without him. And then my lose it is the whole farm storyline. I think it was so dumb and so over the top in Riverdale. I was actually physically relieved when it was over. I think I remember that it was like season 4, episode 2 when it finished, because I was so relieved that it was over. That might not be correct, but I know that it was around then. Okay, so anyone else have anything else for Love It or Lose It?
For me, I love it. Honestly, it wasn't before we had talked about this, but I think I talked myself into not hating Blair and Dan. That was not honestly my opinion when I started recording, but like I think when I tried to talk you into it, I also might have talked myself into it.
Yeah, you for sure like reined in my hatred, which I didn't think anybody could. For that.
I mean, I definitely don't ship it, but I think that I get what the writers were trying to do.
Fair.
And I think I didn't think I was gonna want to do a part 2 of this like concept like anytime soon, but I actually think that I have other things to say about other shows that we didn't talk about. So like, listeners, let us know what other shows have some crazy moments, and like what crazy moments we didn't talk about in these shows, so we can do another one of these. For my lose it, I mean, any of these can really pick any one of these.
Literally.
But,
I mean, all of the above for sure.
Yeah, I think it's the trans stereotypes in Pretty Little Liars. It's like I can deal with like bad, crazy out there writing, and that's fine. But I don't like when shows have like try to use characters that are like supposed to be like representational characters, and they just like use them in ways that just use like harmful stereotypes instead of using them correctly.
Yeah. Like, exactly. Like, don't value them the same way that they value all the other characters, almost. Yeah. Moira, anything to add for anything that you loved or wanted to lose?
For Love It, I'm going to say Meredith committing assurance fraud, mostly just because it's the least out of character thing. Yeah. It actually makes sense.
Yeah.
It was
with
crazy.
Her personality.
It was a crazy thing to do, but yeah, it is very in character.
Yeah, for sure.
It feels like whoever proposed this storyline had a lot of time with the Meredith Grey character. They've clearly been writing Meredith Grey since for a while.
It's so something she would do, and she was 100%. So. I mean, even when she's like doing her when she's like picking up garbage and stuff, like she's still. I mean, she's not sorry. I mean, she is sorry that she committed a crime, but she's not sorry that she did it. You know.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
I think there's one time that Meredith told Joe to do something that was, like, against the rules, and Joe's like, I can't do that. She's like, you can do that because you're Meredith Grey, but I'm not Meredith Grey, and I cannot break the rules the way you can.
Very
and,
true.
like, did you have a specific lose it, or is just all of the other things?
Yeah, all of everything.
There's so many, but the Betty Mad World thing really... messed with me. I did not like it because like I really identified with Betty and a lot of the rest of her character, and I was like, ew, gross, no, stop it.
Yeah, I know. It's so outlandish in the worst way.
Yeah. It is one of the first good FP moments that we have, though, I will say. It's like one of the first times we see FP do anything good.
Very true.
And it's him hustling Betty out of there and giving her a jacket.
But also, like...
But it took him way too long to do it, and it was horrible to watch. Yeah, it was upsetting.
No, I didn't need that in my life.
That was on so many lists.
Anybody want to do randomized rankings, or you want to give that a skip for this week? We didn't plan anybody.
Yeah, we didn't plan anything, so I think we're just going to skip for this week. Didn't want to plan who we're going to talk about and what we were going to talk about,
So we did it.
Yeah, we did.
Exactly.
Any of the previous names that we talked about that you would name your kid?
It's not someone we like specific. Actually, yes. I was gonna say none of the like ones we specifically talked about, and then I was gonna say Mateo from Jane the Virgin, but actually I really like the name Blair.
True.
I think that's a really pretty name.
Yeah.
That's a very cute
That
name.
is really.
And then I think you've said Betty, and one of you has said Betty before.
Mhm.
I was just about to say, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I do like the name Betty for sure.
I feel like that might
Me
have been
too,
your
for sure.
episode 1, to be honest. Somebody's.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, we might have to see.
Hang on.
But yeah,
That is why we have the episode tracker, because
yes.
I
KJ is
like
very
KJ.
organized and has a whole spreadsheet of like what we recommend and what our baby names are for each episode. It's really it's a great system.
That was
Really
your Betty was one of your choices in episode 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's all I would say
Yeah.
for this week.
Moira, did you have one?
Nobody too specific.
No, not really.
Not
'cause
really.
Other than Betty, because I like really old names.
Yeah.
Betty's definitely cute. And I like
Mhm.
Blair.
Yeah, that's very
And
I feel
her in the comics, like Betty was like one of my all-time favorites characters
Mine
out
too.
of anything. When I read the comics when I was younger.
Mhm.
Since the show, I mean, like the whole Mad World situation and other things Betty has done has like
I know.
I don't know if I could
It's
actually
hard.
in practice use that name.
No. I could never
But,
actually do it, but it's like
I know,
the favorite.
but it's a really nice name for sure. Okay,
And I like Spencer too. I've always liked Spencer because, like I've said
Yeah,
on
true.
previous episodes, I like those like unisex names.
yeah,
a
I will
lot,
back
so.
that up for sure. Like I remember when we were actually watching Pretty Little Liars on TV at the time, you mentioning that you really like that
Yeah.
name for a baby name.
All right, is that it for this week?
Okay, so any last call for recommendations? Anything else you want to mention? Shout out. If there's nothing else for us to recommend,
Yeah.
that's been our episode for the week. You've been listening to the Series of Opinions podcast. Let us know what you thought about the episode, all these crazy moments that make our head spin and wonder what we're doing with our life. Leave us a review, it really helps. Or just get in touch, like tell us what you thought and what you think about crazy TV and all the shows that we talked about. Our email is seriesofopinionspod@gmail.com. We're Series of Opinions Pod on Tumblr and Instagram, and Series of Opinion with no S on Twitter. You can find me at Miss Faith Ann on everything, and at Faith Ann Art for all of my art things. Moira, where can they find you?
You can find me at Moira_Frisk on pretty much everything.
And you can find me at like Messes of KJ everywhere. And just a new thing I want to start doing now that we're in our second batch of recordings. Maybe we could tell the listeners what we're going to be doing next week so that they have an idea of what to look forward to next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have that on hand? I forget.
Yes.
We're gonna be doing our first ever ship.
Yes,
I
so
believe.
we're going to
Yes.
be talking about the first ship that each of us ever fell in love with.
Yes.
And if you liked
It's gonna
our
be a good one, I think.
episode, if you liked episode 4 on shipping, which hopefully you did, then that should be a good episode for you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've been obsessed with things for a lot of our life, so
Yeah.
that'll be interesting to get,
Yeah,
to
you're
get
taking
into
a trip
that.
down memory lane for sure.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
This episode was written, produced, and recorded by us. It was edited by me, editing KJ. Our logo is by Faith Ebert. You can find her work at Miss Faith Ann Art, and we will be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.